Canada is having an election. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. And the aim of my video that I'm doing right now tonight, the date is March 12th, 2025. And the aim of my video is to give an explanation, a description, tell people how the Westminster system of parliamentary democracy works. How does Canada elect its government? And I'm keenly aware of the fact that there are a lot of Canadians who don't pay hyper close attention to the political landscape in Canada, that they don't have a enormous understanding. They simply know that every 2, 3, 4 years, depending on how things play out, that we go to the polls, we put X's beside candidates' names, without fully understanding how the Canadian system of democracy works, this Westminster model of parliamentary democracy. A lot of Canadians are under the misguided notion that we directly elect the Prime Minister of Canada, which in point of fact we do not. We are so inundated with American political news, and most people do base their decision on who they're voting for based on who the leader of each party is. Some individuals want Mark Carney to win and be Prime Minister of Canada, so they will vote for Liberal Party candidates. Others want Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party, so they vote for Conservative candidates. But the simple fact of the matter is that we do not directly vote. When you go into the polling station, the name Pierre Poilievre or Mark Carney or Jagmeet Singh or Elizabeth May or Maxime Bernier or Blanchette, and if you're living in Quebec, these are not the names on your ballot. I live in a riding that is referred to as Northumberland Clark riding. It is one of 343 ridings in Canada. And not one of those names will appear on my ballot. There will be the name of a Conservative candidate, a Liberal candidate, Green candidate, an NDP candidate, a PPC candidate, but not one of those names will be the party leaders. Will not be Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, Jagmeet Singh, Elizabeth May, or Maxime Bernier. I live in Ontario. There are no Bloc Québécois candidates running in my riding. So there will be those 5, and there may be 1, 2, 3, there may be more, but there will be those 5. And I have to decide which candidate I want to send as a representative to Ottawa to sit in in our parliamentary building in what we refer to as the House of Commons. And so in a fashion, one could say that Canada isn't holding an election. We are holding 343 elections, because in Canada there are 343 ridings, and sometimes referred to as electoral districts. My riding, Northumberland Clark, has a population of in and around 106,000 people. And according to Elections Canada, of those 106,000 people, there are roughly 92,000 who are eligible to vote in the upcoming federal election. We don't know when the election is going to be exactly. All we know at this point is that an election must be held in and around October of this year, 2025. However, it is widely speculated, and I share this opinion, that we are probably going to the polls. My prediction would be late April, early May. What I think will happen is that Mark Carney is going to be sworn in as Prime Minister of Canada, and he is almost immediately, within days, going to go to the Governor General, the King's representative in Canada. He's going to request that Parliament be formally dissolved for the purposes of having a general election, and then in 4 or so weeks, Canadians will be voting. And we will be having, in a fashion, 343 separate elections. My riding of Northumberland Clark and 342 other ridings all across Canada. All of them will have in and around 100,000 population. That will be the population of most ridings, not all, however. There are some notable exceptions. The Yukon Territory, I think, has a population of 60,000. They have 1 seat. The province of Prince Edward Island. When they joined Confederation, when Canada became a country in 1867, they were promised, guaranteed, to have at minimum 4 members, 4 seats, regardless of their population size. I think PEI has a total population of around 250 to 300,000, and they have 4 representatives. The island of Prince Edward is divided into 4 electoral districts, and there are 4 elections taking place there. What will happen on the day that we vote is the people in my riding will go and choose between a Liberal candidate, a Conservative candidate, a Green, an NDP, and a PPC, and maybe 1 or 2 or 3 more. And we will mark our X's, and then when the polls close, the ballot boxes will be opened, the votes will be counted, and whichever candidate has the most votes will get to go to Ottawa. They will be sent to Ottawa. They will be given a seat in the House of Commons. And we have a system called first past the post. And what it means is that even if 90,000 people vote in my riding, that'll never happen. Highly unlikely. We will get 55, maybe 60% of the people will vote. So let's say that 50,000 vote, and maybe the Conservative candidate, he might get 20,000 votes, so less than half, about 40%. But next in line, the Liberal gets 15,000, and then the remaining votes are divided evenly among the other 3 candidates. Well, whoever has the most, even if they only win by 1 vote, even if they only get 36% of the vote, doesn't matter. That's the individual who wins. First past the post. You don't have to have 50% plus 1. So whoever wins, that individual is sent to Ottawa. They get a seat in our House of Commons. And then after all 343 ridings, electoral districts have determined the winning candidates, they're all sent to Ottawa. And whichever party elected the most members, that party becomes the governing party in our parliament. And whichever individual leads that party, that individual becomes the Prime Minister of Canada. That is the fashion in which we are going to be getting a new Prime Minister shortly, Mark Carney, because he is about to become the official leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. And because the Liberal Party of Canada has the most seats in our House of Commons currently, he automatically occupies the Prime Minister's office, becomes the Prime Minister of Canada. So this is the manner in which, broadly speaking, there are more details to it. There's minority situations, majority situations. There can be formal coalitions when there's a minority, or supply confidence agreements, as we've seen happen between the NDP and the Liberals, under Justin Trudeau, and the NDP under Jagmeet Singh. There are different ways things can play out, but the fine point I want to draw on this is that Canadians don't directly elect our Prime Minister the way that Americans do. Their Republican model is different than the Canadian model. They have individual members in districts that are referred to as congressional districts, and those individuals are elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. And the Republicans may have the majority of the seats, the Democrats may have the majority of the seats, but then they have a separate vote, and you get to vote directly for the President of the United States. So in the most recently completed U.S. federal election, an individual would go into their voting station, and an American would be voting for the member of the House of Representatives. They might be voting for the Senate as well. It's a bit of a complicated system, how often Senate seats come up. And then they might also, and then they will always be voting in a federal election for who they want to be president. So they can vote for Donald Trump, a Republican, but then for the House of Representatives, they can vote Democrat. And then for the Senate, they could choose to vote for an independent. But in Canada, we only have, on our federal ballot, there is only one choice, and that is, who do you want to be your MP, Member of Parliament? Who do you want to send to Ottawa to sit in the House of Commons? Do you want the Conservative, the Liberal, the NDP, the Green, the Bloc Québécois, the PPC? And then that's the only choice you have to make. And most Canadians, I believe, vote primarily based on the leader of the party. Individuals will say, I want Mark Carney to be prime minister, so even though I can't vote for Mark Carney directly, I'm going to vote for the Liberal candidate. Likewise, if someone wants Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives to lead Canada, they will put an X next to the Conservative candidate, hoping that that individual will win, get the seat, and then you simply hope that the party you want to win, that they win the most seats, and then they become the governing party. And then it becomes a question of, do they have enough seats to form a majority, or are they in a minority situation? In 2015, the Trudeau-led Liberals were elected to a majority government, but in both 2019 and 2021, the subsequent two elections, Trudeau's Liberal Party was elected to minority governments, and they had to get support from the opposition parties, at least one of them. They needed either the Bloc Québécois or the NDP to support them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to pass any legislation. And as political observers know, the NDP signed something that is referred to as a supply confidence agreement, meaning that if there was ever an important vote coming forth, if there was an important piece of legislation, and by important, I mean confidence legislation, because in a minority situation, if more votes are tallied against the legislation than for it, it can be deemed a vote of confidence, and it would send Canadians to the polls. There would be a snap election. And so what happened was Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau cut a deal, and the NDP agreed that on any vote that was of confidence, any confidence vote, that the NDP would supply the votes to ensure that the Liberal government wouldn't fall and we wouldn't be heading to the polls. But now we are going to be heading to the polls. Again, this is a prediction of mine, but it's not unique. There are a lot of individuals saying this. We'll be heading to the polls late April, early May. Mark Carney is going to be sworn in as Prime Minister of Canada, and very quickly, this is my prediction, will go to the Governor General, who is the head of state. Another little civics lesson point is that the head of state of Canada is not the Prime Minister. It is actually the Crown. It is actually King Charles. But King Charles is not going to sign every bill into law. Instead, he has a representative referred to as the Governor General. The woman's name is currently, I believe it's Sinclair. She is the King's representative. She signs on his behalf. So once a piece of legislation has passed, once it's been approved in both the House of Commons and in the Senate, it is then passed to the Governor General. The Governor General must then sign it. But it's not a law until the Governor General signs it. That is referred to as royal assent. I hope my video has been reasonably educational. I've tried to keep it pretty simple. I did study political science at university. There is more to things. Again, I'm trying to keep it at a generalistic level because I'm aware that not everyone follows the political scene hyper. They are not hyper concerned about the political scene only when there's an election coming on, and then a lot of people feel like they're playing catch up. If you want to get politically involved, if there's a particular party you want to see win, every riding will have a Liberal riding association, a Conservative riding association, an NDP riding association. Most will have Green and PPC as well. If you live in Quebec, you have the added Bloc Québécois, a party that advances the interests of Quebec and only Quebec. I lived in Quebec previously from 2011 till 2015. So the Quebec political scene is something entirely that you could do hours. I could do videos that would be hours long trying to explain the political landscape in the province of Quebec. I'm not going to bother. But I thank you for watching tonight's video, this video. If you think I got anything wrong, point it out in the comments down below. If you appreciated it, again, I appreciate comments, and you're welcome to share it. I hope I explained it relatively well. We're not really, in a fashion you can say, we're not having one election, we're having 343 elections. And then after each of those 343 elections have been completed, and we send everyone off to Ottawa, each representing a specific party, at that point we determine who is going to rule Canada. Will it be Pierre Poilievre and his Conservative Party, or will it be Mark Carney and the Liberal Party of Canada? Those are the only two. 99.9999999. It's going to be one of those two. It would be beyond shocking if the NDP, the Greens, or anyone else was able to win power in Parliament. So I'll have more to say going forward. Most of my videos are live, and I invite participation. So if you enjoy live YouTube style videos, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. I thank everyone if you hit the thumbs up button, because that helps increase my exposure. I'm an old 58-year-old Canadian Army veteran, left the military in 2021. I talk about everything. Everything. The situation in Ukraine, Russia, the situation unfolding in the Middle East, all the plane crashes we have been witnessing. I often express what our soon-to-be former Prime Minister called unacceptable views. I consider myself something of the poster child for cancel culture. I hate identity politics. I think what should matter in the marketplace of ideas is the ideas themselves, not from whence they originate. I think we should evaluate ideas based on the ideas themselves and divorce the idea from the person saying it. There's a tendency in today's world, sadly, to say, I'm not listening to that idea because it comes from an old, white, straight Canadian guy. And so that idea gets thrown away. We only want to hear ideas from people who are deemed to be marginalized. My attitude is, forget that. Let's look at the ideas themselves, weigh them, and have it out in the public square as to which is the best way, and move forward on that basis, not on the basis of things like DEI and critical race theory. I am conservative-minded, but I'm not going to say who I'm voting for in the coming election. You can probably guess. But I think Canada functions best when everyone is actively engaged in the democratic process and is informed, knowing how our democratic process works, understanding this Westminster system of parliamentary democracy. But at any rate, I've gone on. I'm rambling on now. I want to keep this video under 20 minutes. So thank you for watching. And again, if you want more of this content, and if you want to engage with me live during one of my live streams, which I do several times a week, you can hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell, then you'll get notifications. Anyway, God bless, and we'll talk to everyone later. Good night.